Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Meet the Artist session with the comic artist Zaki Rahman.
Hey, hello guys.
Good afternoon to everyone who's tuning in, and thanks so much for joining us today on Facebook Live. We are now live in the Arts House, and we are going to do a very casual and chill discussion today, sharing about Zaki's incredible work in his 20 over years of being an artist in Singapore, where he has worked on things like animation projects, as well as, of course, his comic books, which we'll talk about in more detail today. So Zaki is an artist, he's an arts educator, he has experience directing and drawing for animation as well. And his most notable books that has been published by Asiapac Books are the comic books Legendary Tales of Singapore, and also Lieutenant Anand and the Last Regiment. And then last but not least, Elizabeth Choi, Her Story, which was a comic book that came out I think it was 20... it came out during the pandemic. It was 2020. Yeah. So, Zaki's been doing comics for so many years. So today we're going to talk about drawing Singapore history in comics, which is something that, Zaki's really one of the very few subject matter experts on, I guess. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Zaki, I'd like you to, share a bit more about yourself.
Okay, guys. My name is Zaki Rahman. Okay, so is that about myself? I've experience for, like she said, 20 over years from doing animation design, game art, and even like doing for advertising. Right. So it's a bit of a journey. Okay. So for me, is being an artist is it's kind of exciting because I got to create a lot of and work together a lot of stories and series for Asiapac, right, and some other things in animation. Okay, so for some of the books, like Legendary Tales of Singapore is one of them. That was my early years, 20 over years. Thank you for Madam Lee Kong and the senior.
Yeah, when Zaki was a young boy.
Yeah, I'm still a young boy, so yeah.
Younger boy.
Yeah, so it's like, have a bit, give me a chance to share my talents, right? Then after that, right now, it's actually, I'm a lecturer in majors, teaching concept art design for games. Okay, so it's still drawing, but much more digital, do a bit of 2D and 3D, like ZBrush or that. So it's a bit a different agenda, but it's still something to do with arts. Okay. So these are my art station. You can take a look at my art station. You can just visit at muhammadzakiartstation.com. Okay. So you can check it out and you can message me anything over there. Right. So yes, today we're gonna talk about comics. Right. So it's like what are the process, what it's like, right? What's the idea behind everything, and and how to approach your publisher, right?
Yeah. I think the publisher end of things is maybe it's a separate session. Today we are talking about the artist, the comic artist.
So yes, so we're talking about comics and storytelling, and what's the difference between like comic, the still visual, right? Images visual compared to movies, right? So in terms of comic, if you talk about like Lieutenant Adnan or Elizabeth Choi, right? It's almost like the story is more like a graphic novel. That means it contains a lot of meaning and beyond storytelling, right? So if you look like a movie, right? If you watch a movie, if you want to compare, it's like if you're watching Godfather or you're watching this movie that based on a true story, it's a bit slow, it's a bit more engaging, right? Where the drama is putting, right? So that's the difference between you doing like a graphic novel and you're doing a movie. The similarity is there, right? If you're talking about doing a comic book like those X-Men or those superhero comic book, right? If your comparison is like you're watching all the action movie out there, right? Everything go fast-paced, everything. So you want to do your own comic, you must know what kind of storytelling you are going to tell, right? So if you're doing like those action comics or that, you must imagine that you are doing a blockbuster for a movie, right? Everything must go fast-paced, right? The pages go a lot of splashing pages, this kind of thing. And the drama is by action itself, right? But if you're doing like a graphic novel or just a comic book like this Lieutenant Adnan or Elizabeth Choi, you got to put in a lot of content, a lot of emotion, not just visualization, but with the wording, the
Yeah.
writers as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned is there's a difference lah. So, there's historical documentary, and then there's, blockbuster, explosions,
Yeah.
all that. So it's true, there's very different styles.
Correct. So again, there's a totally two different medium, right? So once with a lot of lighting, a lot of what do you call it, effects, a lot of time consuming. And of course, drawing comic is not easy as well. It's time consuming, right? So again, the similarity is again about what you're going to tell on your story, right? Because in the end, you got to tell, is it about characteristic, or is it about patriotism, right? Or is it about love story, right? Because these three elements is always been there. If you tell any story, right? If you tell even a comedy story, it's always about love story. It's about your individuality, right? And a progression of where you're going to the next stage or not, right? So even you telling like a comic book itself, right? You're telling like a war story, right? You must have a journey for the character, right? What the character motivation, what are the idea of him, what his ideology is all about. So it's a lot of research, a lot of storytelling you need to tell. Okay, not just light action and just draw.
Yeah, and there's also the fact that the characters are real people. So, this journey that they went through, you have to make it a story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So again, in storytelling, especially you're drawing a comic book, right? There's two different things, right? So when you draw a comic book that based on fiction, right? It's not easy, but the visualization is up to your imagination, right? And everything must be exaggerated, right? By you telling a story about true story, right? As much exaggeration that you got to put, but as much grounded you got to, draw it out. I mean, if you draw about Singapore, you got to exaggerate, but you must know that this is Singapore, right? You got to pull down at a certain level, like, okay, we are in Singapore.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
It's not a Marvel movie.
Yeah, it's not like you can just
Not a
draw
monster.
anything without any significant background design. So if you want to draw Singapore, the first thing that you draw Singapore is that the Malayan, or if back in the days, it's like something like a kampong or a place that really significant, the port, right? You can see when I draw the Lieutenant Adnan, so I draw the plane is striking on the Singapore ports or that.
The Clifford Pier,
Yes,
this
yes.
recognizable,
Correct.
Singapore River.
Correct.
Yeah,
So all that thing you
landmarks.
must put it in. So that's the thing about when you're drawing a fictional and you're drawing based on a true story, right? So there's a bit of more research to draw. There's certain reality that you got to put in, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think establishing the environment and all that is very important for the readers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And research as well. So I ever draw before 1942 images of poster that I did, right? So when I did, I just get an old rifle. I tried to draw it out, right? Then after that, it was 1942 story. Then somebody just tell it to me, is that, hey, why that this guy holding a Russian rifle?
Oh.
Yeah, because sometimes when you look for research, you need to have the right rifle, the right kind of model, this kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true. And you drew it in Lieutenant Anand and also in Elizabeth Choi, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I did a couple of projects with Singapore Heritage, doing for Subhas Bose, Chandra Subhas Bose that time.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so it does have a lot of link to 1942 story.
I see. So now you know what all the uniforms look like, all the helmet, the
basically,
rifles and all that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
You got to draw 100 pages, you got to remember.
Yeah, that's the other thing also. I think you have to make, as in, you may only see this many pages, but then actually the research that Zaki has to do to draw one panel alone can be, so many pages and pages of things.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that we need to key in, especially if you draw just a normal people, right? Even the haircut, you got to see it's 1940s haircut.
Oh, so the haircut cannot draw too modern era kind of haircut.
So it's that kind of thing happens. So sometimes when you look at old drawings, like it's old drawing because of the way that people draw the facial face, right? The eyebrow, this kind of thing. So when you see like the artists that draw mostly female now, the eyebrow, right? Like say this part here is very, very, very slick, very thin,
The
because
pluck the eyebrows.
yeah, because most of the female now are different eyebrow.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
lor. Over the eras, last time very
yeah,
thin, then sometimes very
yeah,
thick, then sometimes very thin, sometimes very
so
thick.
they keep changing our look and feel, even the hairstyle, right? Keep
Yeah, the
changing.
men's fashion also, the
Yeah.
dressing and
So it's
the.
very, very different. So
Style.
to be a comic artist, you need to cover a lot of ground. You need to update yourself, right? If not, because he doesn't know, it's like you keep drawing the same way like in the 1980s, then people were like, oh, this artist is no artist, they never update the story, this kind of thing. So this is part of the artist journey that you need to always update. Okay, so of course the word bubbles are important, right? In our traditional word bubble, we are using those Western style word bubble. It's standardized because it's our Singapore mostly is under a lot of Western influence, right? Even though there's a lot of manga influence or Japanese anime influence, but I think it's more standardized to do international word bubble, right? And of course the sound effect also is the same thing because we are doing digital media right now. Even though we print out a book, we need to use a lot of Western kind of sound effect. Because if you use a Japanese kind of thing, it's a lot of manpower. That means the lettering must use normal brushes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
think it's a style choice lah.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
I think for you it's a unique style, a bit Western, a bit
Yeah.
American comic style, but also can see some influence from
Yeah,
other
definitely. I
types of
think for the
comics.
best thing was Singapore, right? Because we are in Asia, then we watch a lot of this Western TV, right? And we got Ultraman also, like some Japanese TV as well when we were kids. So it does have a bit of influence on both culture, right? The only thing is that Singapore is much more rojak, right? It's like sometimes it's good if you get it right.
Yeah, that's true. I think for the comics in Singapore, the right word is rojak. Yeah, the styles actually is very exciting. There's a lot of different style. We have a lot of manga kind style of artists. We also have the Marvel DC style artists. We also have very, very unique indie style artists.
Correct. So, the idea of doing a comic, right? The first stage that we got to do is thumbnails, right? So this process, right, is being go through more than 100 years from those Western comic to Japanese comic, right? They always do thumbnail first. Thumbnail is as, let's say you draw an A4 size like this, then you started to draw the size of a thumb or be bigger, so you can see how the story flow goes. A very, very rough sketch. Then usually I talk to the writer to have the content of the story. How far does the lettering go? How far does the visual go? And I will send to the rough sketches also to the publisher first, right?
Yeah, I think we are showing the thumbnails here.
Yes.
So
yeah.
this actually before the thumbnail stage is usually the scripting stage, right? Am I right?
Yeah, definitely the script. Yeah, but the script will work together with the visual, because sometimes the script is a bit too long, then sometimes we cannot put inside the panel itself, right?
Yeah. So as the artist, if you think the script is a bit too long-winded, you can,
Yeah.
when you do the thumbnails, that's when you also get to have some input.
Correct.
What is longer, what is shorter.
Usually, we work together with the writer. We tell what's the story, because if the limitation of the page is 100 pages, right, then it's the story, the lettering, the writing itself is more more than that. Then we got to cut some part of it, and it's a creative process. So it's not like the artist do everything, or that is not true at all. It's the editor do a lot more things.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. I think it's a very collaborative process,
Correct,
and
yeah.
that's the nature of comics, because it's
Yes.
the combination of text plus visual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in all creative process, you guys know, like even like if you guys do like a TV or animation, it's the same process where I do the storyboard and I do the directing, all that, and sometimes the shot doesn't work, you need to change shot, all that. It's the same thing.
Yeah, that's right. That's
a
right.
lot of creative collaboration, right? So especially because we're all human, so when we do, sometimes when we are tired, we draw certain things or we write certain things, we have a certain mistake, right? So it's good to have a lot of eyes to take a look at one or two pictures. So in that, you can spot, hey, Zaki, something wrong. The leg is too small, this kind of thing, right? Or the body is a bit too short, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
At this stage, you can start to find
Correct.
some of those problems.
Correct. So it's very, very collaboration, collaborative. And so this is, you can see the rough thumbnail when we blow it up, right? You can see how the artwork goes. right? It's very, very rough. You can see that they are coming out from a church. They have a wedding, this kind of thing, to show a celebration, they are happy during those times, right? So this is the cleanup works, right? So when you clean up, you can see it's much more structurized. You can see it's much more cleaner. Everything is like, looks very, 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 they call it easy to look at because it's happy times, right? So when you draw your own comic book, you must put a bit of emotion. If the emotion looks very positive, right? This part of the story is very positive, so you try to do it more, like gentle to the eye, okay? So, okay, sorry, I got to go back. And after that, when we put the narrative, the lettering, right? That's what tell a story, right? It's a visual guide, and especially the narrative, when you read it, it's like going inside your head. It's almost like a narration talking inside.
Yeah, actually, it's like the meaning becomes more layered, lah. Like you
Yes.
can see as you do the thumbnails,
Yeah.
you tell a visual story, then you overlay the words. Actually, the page suddenly becomes so
Alive,
much
right?
more
Yeah.
interesting and complex.
Yes. So it's more meaningful. The other thing also, lettering, you just not put a letter inside. There's certain font that you need to use, right? Because certain font you cannot use just a Comic Sans font, right? People don't take it seriously. So a font is always, you need to get the right font and to get the right attitude on your story to tell.
Yep. That's very, very important. And I mean, in this case, maybe we can point out Danny himself, Danny
Yes.
Jalil, the writer, he did the lettering in
Yes.
the comic, in the
Yeah.
speech bubble. So that's actually a very important part of the
Correct.
kind of like revising and editing process also. I think he changed a lot of his text while he was doing
Yes.
lettering. Yeah.
So because of, a writer want to tell his story, so probably the certain text that looks more serious or more edgy will play a lot of parts. So for him, okay, this kind of font, is it you need to be italic or need to be bold, right?
Emphasis.
Emphasis of a lot of the storytelling that they want to tell, right? So like she says just now, Madam Ying,
Ling,
right?
yeah, Ying.
It's like script is important. So everything about storytelling, right, that you guys got to remember, no matter how awesome the artwork is, right, no matter how awesome the visual look like, right, without a good script or a good story, right, it's very hard to come out with a good book or a good movie or good films. In the end of the visual, right, or in the end of the thing, is still storytelling. Storyline is always king in whatever you do, right? In a movie or in books, right? Without a good story, people cannot remember which page is which part is like more crucial for the character, right? So story is always king that you got to remember, right?
Yeah, that's very, very true.
Right. So this is a sample. If you can see, this is a sample of the page 2 in the Lieutenant Adnan book. Right? It's page 2, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so actually right now what we're describing is like, it's kind of like walking you through the creative process that that Danny and
Yeah.
Zaki went through. So yeah, we start with that script. It's
Yeah.
just a few lines of text.
Yes.
Actually for many of us when we read, we cannot imagine anything.
Yeah,
But then
yeah.
Zaki has to translate all of that into a finished page, and this is the final result.
Yes. So because sometimes we got to understand the story, right? Because the first story that you're talking about, I can't see the lettering. So it's about he's going from Selangor, right?
Do you want me to read? Oh, okay. It says, we are in the train where Anand and his wife Sophia are seated. They look out of the window as the trees whip by their eyes, the trees reflected in the grass. Their eldest son looks out of the window and is amazed at the sights. Her youngest son is asleep in Sophia's arms. Sophia looks content as she holds her baby, but Anand looks serious. Inside of his mind, he thinks of his job to come when he arrives in Singapore.
Right.
And then there's only one line of caption, which is on the way to Singapore.
Yeah, on the way to Singapore, yeah. So the idea, you must understand, the whole story is about a journey, right? To make the story journey is that you got to understand where the character is, how the drama goes, how heavy it is it expectation to a new place, right? So you can see there's a lot of expectation. You can see when I draw it, the first biggest place is the land, and then after that you can see the train coming through as the bird flying in, right? It just the bird is about peaceful, when you do something like very peaceful, you can see the dove are flying, the pigeon are flying, this kind of thing, right? And the characteristic of important thing is the introduction, the main character to the eyes of the character that's telling a story, the son, right? Then second is the who we are talking about, the family of Adnan, right? So that's why when we tell a story, we need to tell what's the drama in between of it. It's similar to visualization of doing a movie as well. If you guys do a movie, right? Character is very, very important. So you got to tell in which part of the character that you are in, and which part of the character you are telling the stories, right? So from this, you can see the second strip as we go through, right? And see the visual is that, just two visual, is that about where he is, where he's staying, and who they are, right? From there, we can see that the characteristic is four of them, right? It's four of them with the smaller kids, right? It's going off, right?
Actually, Zaki, can I ask you one question? So actually the establishing visual at the top, right, that panel, the train station,
Yeah.
what train station were you thinking of when you drew this?
Oh, actually, it is our our what this
Tanjong Pagar
the old
railway
Tanjong
station.
Pagar, yeah, the old Tanjong
Oh,
Pagar.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because, you know, that's the thing. Like, when you see it, actually, it's not stated there so clearly, this
Yeah.
is Tanjong Pagar railway station.
Yeah.
But actually, once we see it, we kind of know, this is Singapore. We know
Yeah.
we're in Singapore now.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's lucky enough because I did a couple of research. Then apparently, I Googled it. I couldn't find it. Then I stumbled into our PUB.
PUB.
PUB, our electric and gas. So they got some photos since 1800 plus.
Wow.
Yeah. So they got certain part of like Tanjong Pagar MRT that they can show from the front and from the top. So it's quite interesting that Singapore has been quite modernized since 1800. Yeah. So I don't know if the link is still there. By that time when I would look for it, I was lucky to find it. They got a couple of pictures. So yeah, from there I do a bit of research. Of course, it's not the same. I changed here and there a bit because the angles are different totally. Right? Because it's more dramatic where you put the camera a bit lower and you see how dynamic the character goes, right? Yeah. So all that you got to change. But yeah, at least you got certain reference. You know how the clock look like. You see underneath of the train station, right? How you gonna look like?
Yeah, references are very important.
Yeah. So, but the angle you got to change here and there a bit. Yeah. So for this one, is the first page that you see is telling of the story that we're going to go through, right? The war between the Japanese war and the war between us, who are the victim, who are the survivor, the last. Consider this the first defense of Singapore is the last defense of Singapore. That's the ironic about this story, right? Because he's the first defense, that's the last defense that we ever had, right?
Yeah, that's true. The battle lasted 2 days and then it surrendered.
Yeah, so the first defense is the last defense. So it's interesting storytelling. It's like, it's going to be like, if you tell this story, right, it's going to be like a really like Dunkirk story because it lasts 24 hours, 2 days, 48 hours, right? And you can see how much the struggle of these people doing it, right?
Yeah,
it's
that's
amazing.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe one day I hope to see somebody do a good job on the movie. If there is.
Yeah, one day if anyone wants to shoot a Lieutenant Anand movie or even a TV series, I think that would be great. Yeah,
be
it's
amazing,
a fascinating episode and character to talk about.
Okay. Oh, I think that's it, right? Oh, is there some more?
I think there's some more. Yeah, so we talked about the creative process, and I think we just touched on the main concepts, lah. Maybe if anyone has any more detailed questions, actually I didn't mention earlier, but you can leave your questions in the Facebook Live, and then I will read through and get back to you about that. But in the meantime, so now we're moving on to the next topic, which is, I guess, more broad themes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, maybe like patriotism, right?
Yeah. Patriotism.
Yeah. Why do we fight for our country? Of course we fight for our country, right? Why do we fight? Because the place where we live for, the place where we all have our own story and love, right? We born there, the first person that we love is our mother, our parents, right? The same thing, if you get older, the person that you're going to love is your loved one, your daughter, your son, your wife, all that, right? So the place that you stay is the place that you must defend or die, right? That's patriotism. So it can be anything, right? It can be from other place. It's the same thing. The place that, even for myself, right, when I was a kid, I lived in a school called Broadrick Primary School. It's already closed down. right?
Broderick Primary
School,
School.
yeah. My dad is a
Oh,
quarters.
I remember.
Yeah, my dad is a watchman over there.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's like I always remember the joyful when I was there, because I can play around and my friend come to the school just to play soccer and to play a lot of stuff. And yeah, even though we are not, the living in quarters, I have a lot of enjoyment. I feel like I got my own field, my own. Yeah, you can anytime play, and it's a nice thing. So something to remember. The place that you are growing up is the place that is the right place to defend. That's the thing, no matter where you're from.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between fighting for your home and, fighting for something very abstract, like a cause or like,
Yeah, yeah.
rights or, yeah.
There's always a certain thing that you need to remember because right. Your place it happen to anywhere, any country or anybody, right? It's like certain thing that happened recently also the same thing.
Yep.
They are the same people, but because of the flag are different, it go differently, right? So it's kind of sad to say, but Singapore we should appreciate right now, right? Because we ourselves are a very, very small dot. We are living in a very, very small country.
Yeah.
And we all love each other and we all trying to do better, right? No matter how negative things goes, we always try to, we always scold at it, but we always try to do better. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's right. Even if, sometimes people might be critical or they complain, but that's because it's your home,
Yes.
You care and then you will say these things.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
So we complain because we want to do better, not because we hate on it. So that's why people need to understand, right?
Yeah, and I mean, like, say, talking about the different time periods, because we're talking about history after all. So, like, how, like, I guess the next theme that is very important to the work that we've been doing is just also the changing generations
Yes,
of Singaporeans.
of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So in 1940s, as you can see from the picture itself, it's very, very, Singapore is quite a unique country. Even without a resource, since the 40s, we already been established, right? We've been in a lot of building, a lot of time, a lot of people even come to Singapore and invest in, right? There's a lot of culture, not just Malay culture, Chinese culture. There's a lot more Arab people, right? That's why they call Arab Street, right? Bugis people, they call Bugis Street. So even if you go to Bugis, you can see there's a Manila Road, right? So there's a lot of culture into a small country. Even though we are Southeast Asia, by investment of other countries, there's a lot, right? So we got to respect that. Even you can see that Lieutenant Anand come from Selangor, right? So it's like a lot of people invest in the country, in the small country. That means we are doing the right thing, right?
Yeah.
People are coming here to display their own heart, their own idea, their own creativity, just to make the country grows better, right? So this one we got to really appreciate.
Yeah, Singapore's been very vibrant
Yes.
for many years. I mean, even the building we are in today, the Arts House, it's been around since it was in that photo earlier. It's
Correct.
around for a long, long
of
time.
course, all the struggle gonna be there, people not happy, this kind of thing, because is that if everything goes fine, then it's not a country, it's not a place, right? Something you need to experiment, something you need to go forward to, right? If everything goes fine, then it's like
yeah. And there's so much evolution. Every few years, there's so many changes.
right.
I mean,
So like Singapore is a crossroad to the east. You can see Raffles Place, Orchard Road during back in the days, right? So there's a lot of value, simplified value that we tend to forget because like for us, like for youngsters like us, right? Consider youngster because I see the time of pager to mobile phone, right? So for people, it's like for you guys are younger, you can see that you are born with mobile phone and iPad, right? So the thing is the connectivity, because last time, right, the words because things are black and white, people like Anand or Elizabeth Choi, right, when they say something about they are trying to defend the country or they will do what they do, it's solidified like a goal, right? Because words only come once and they will really do the best they can. For right now, because we're living in the world of TikTok, everybody can say something, the next day say another thing, right?
yeah, it's true. It's a different era because of the technology, the environment, the people. So the way we think has changed, that for sure.
For sure. But again, that's a good thing because the connectivity is much more fast-paced and much more clearer, right? Because last time, if Singapore, we have war last time, right? I think a couple of days then you find out, oh, Singapore got attacked by Japan, this kind of thing, right? Or some other countries.
That's true. It takes time to
Right.
find out things.
Right now, it's like I got a student, she's from Ukraine, right? So what happened is that we just tell her, she's straight away at 11 p.m., message her, call her family. Then her family was like, hey, it's 5 p.m., 5 a.m. over there, and tell it's like, hey, they just notice it, kind of thing.
Yeah,
And the news
yeah.
come very fast. It's like few seconds away, right? You can know what happened.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sure the way that the like the Japanese occupation, World War II, the way these things happen was actually very slow. Yeah,
Yes,
compared to
yeah.
today.
Yeah, probably a couple of days, then they find out, oh, the Hawaiian been attacked by Japanese or that.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor, all
Yeah,
this.
so all the thing is very, very different. So we should be, again, there's a very different mentality between now and then, where now is everything go faster. Of course, our patient get lesser because of that. So it's good to remember that, what is the past, so at least we can be more patient and more sincere.
That's right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think patience
Yeah.
is a rare and even very rare quality nowadays.
Very, yeah. Even if I took a Grab just now, right? The other car content, kind of thing like.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's true. And I mean, we hear from readers all the time, now they're used to swiping Twitter, swiping TikTok. So even reading a book has become, like in the past, comic books were considered the fast read, right?
Yes.
They're supposed to be, you can read a comic book in half an hour, 1 hour, that kind
Yeah,
of time.
15 minutes to half an hour, even 1 hour, depend on how thick is the comic.
Yeah, you can stand there and finish reading. But then even that feels like long form content now.
Correct, correct.
For kids today, it's turned into long form content.
So it's a very different thing. But yeah, the 20th century, the thing are very nice, it's beautiful because it's more colorful. The social media, right? Of course, there's a lot of distraction coming through, right, with social media. Sometimes what happens, sometimes I would, even for myself, right, as an artist, like I draw something, then my phone will start ringing, then I go and check again, then I go and see it again. It's like a short distraction, right?
That's true.
Yeah, but it's a good distraction because sometimes it's good to focus and sometimes you need to take a break as well. Yeah. So yeah, right now things have like short-term devotion, yes, right? We like to see something that very fast, short, and just go away, this kind of thing, right? Because things move very fast, right? So this is what happened. So even in format of a comic book, right? I think it's a good thing because sometimes it's like you read a book, it's like you are in that world. You was like, suddenly just in that kind of what do you call it?
It's an immersive experience.
Immersive experience, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I think comics, the visuals play a big role in that, lah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's different from reading, when we read about Lieutenant Anand in the comic book, in the history textbook, it's always one chapter, Elizabeth Choi, Lieutenant Anand, But when you read it in a long form comic book, then you really can imagine what the character is like, what their world is like, and really understand their story.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think reading is important. It's not just visualization. So how many times that you remember a dialogue in the movie, right? Unless it's key repetition, you watch it, right? If not, if you read it, one thing about reading, once you read a dialogue, it's always interpreted in your mind for some reason. It's like the word is always inside your head.
Yeah, it's like you've heard the voice.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So we are living in the world where we are crowded and sometimes we live in individuality when we watch our phone for 24 hours, right? Crowded yet alone, of course. Like we always like to be, sincerely just to see the focus of the world in our small tiny phone. And it's not wrong, right? It's just that it is what it is, okay? So sometimes we need to come together, of course, to break out. Right now it's very hard because of our situation right now, right? But yeah, sometimes it's good to come together socializing, right? From there we can meet a lot of people and understand about people more, right? So without any further notice, any question or answer, you guys can just let me know.
Yeah, the last slide, when we talk about coming together, do you feel that as an artist, that's, something that's quite important to you?
Obviously, because we cannot, psychological, right? When we draw a comic, right? We need to meet people, we need to know, we cannot just read book, oh, psychological people are like this, I like that. It's not a raw experience. You will know, usually if you draw a comic book, it's always somebody that you know of will play the part of the thing that you draw. Okay, let's say this guy introvert. I remember somebody introvert in my school, this kind of thing, what they do, this kind of thing. So when you draw it out, you mimic certain people that you know, right?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
So to have a good character, actually
correct.
you must observe people, you must understand people, you must get to know people, right?
Psychology observation. So it like
Yeah.
even like for me when I meet a lot of couple of students, some students are introverts, some students got a lot of problems, all that, right? Yeah. So I ask
Yeah.
them certain psychological problems. It's happened, no? Certain. Yeah. So is that
Yeah.
you will learn throughout experience. So as an artist, meeting people is always important. Right? It's not just draw. Meeting people, the way you draw, you will understand the character more dimensional.
Yeah, that's right. And important to meet people with different experience and different background and different life story.
Everything, yeah, different lifestyle, different background, no matter walk of life, high or low, or even like uh, people are not really like people are disabled, right? It's good to get to know all these people because in life, right, life is a journey. You need to know all these people. Then after that, you have more compassion,
Yeah,
right?
compassion. Yeah.
Compassionate and more like understand what they go through.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
Yeah, through my life as an artist, I go through a lot of people, make like commercialized people and people with ideas. Then when I was doing teaching right now, I met a lot of people like I got this, what they call it, autism or that. Yeah,
Okay.
I never thought in my life that I will understand people autism. So I got a couple of students autism. Then I realized that wow, it's very important not to connect with this kind of people.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's so true.
It's
And
amazing, right? The way they think are different, everything are different.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and talking, because nowadays you're a teacher and you work with a lot of students and
Yeah.
these are young artists, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Actually, like we know that there are a lot of artists out there who might be interested in drawing comics or they might be interested in drawing comic books about Singapore history. So, do you have any kind of like tips or advice from your many years of experience?
Oh yeah, definitely. Always draw something that you know, like a certain character that you know of, like your friend to play a part. Secondly is research because if you're doing especially like Lieutenant Anand or Elizabeth Joy, research is important because without research, right, is a lot of things doesn't stick and it's a lot of things like you even though you make a story of based on a true story, if you do the research is not strong, people can see just a basis of just a outer line of things. It's not really deep, right? And then the character is very sense is very loose, and people doesn't really like attach to the story, right? So research is important. Like recently, I do a research on like Hang Tuah, this kind of thing. I just
Yeah.
an idea just pop up. I do a research. Then I find out it's very hard because I want to find that guy Taming Sari. I can't even find any background of him.
Actually, can you tell us what you know about him? Because I think a lot of our viewers, they may not even know this character, Hang Tuan.
Yeah, Hang Tuah is actually a
Hang Tuah?
old Malay warrior that very famous in the Malay folklore.
Yeah.
Even it's a myth or even in the real thing, right? It's a history, right? So there's a lot of myth to it that you got to separate it, and a lot of real history that you need to separate. There's two versions of him, right? Yeah. So the problem is that he fought somebody that really a warrior from the Majapahit. Then I tried to look for this warrior in Majapahit. I couldn't find a single trace where he from. Right? I can't even find where's the crest made from. Right? Which metal is there? I couldn't even find a single thing. Right? So it's like this myth is going for so long, right? Because I thought of doing certain ideas like to know a certain character, how strong is the hero, you must know how strong is the adversary. Right?
Yeah, this is like art history research
Yeah,
actually,
so-
and it's something I think maybe in Southeast Asia or in Singapore, all these people like librarians, all the
Yeah.
museum curators, all that. I mean, really, we are grateful for what you do, because
Correct.
it's an important resource for artists.
It's very important because the thing is that even the year is 14,000 years, right? 1400, right? They call it.
1400.
Yeah, 1400. Then I find out, I got to see the Majapahit king who was there back then. Is it the son or this kind of thing? Then we find out that Singapore got how many kings already, like from generation, this kind of thing. So you got to pick the right one, you got to see, because after that there's another invasion. So if you do based on a true story, this is very important, because if not, right, your story is get very like you're watching a movie, then you just follow that movie kind of thing. So it's not right. So you must find a lot of research. So if you guys want to do your own comic book, if you want to do fiction, fine, get the myth out there. Play with your own myth if you want, right? But you want to do like some true story, there's a lot of research, a lot of things you need to go through, not just Wikipedia, right? You got to go to a lot. You need to somebody who learned from Javanese history, right? You need to do from people like even like from Malaysia history, this kind of thing. There's a lot of things. You need to get the right source.
Yeah, I think you have to dig deeper lah.
Yes.
It's something that, I mean, Asiapac Books, we publish a lot of comic books with
Correct.
different artists, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, the comic artists, the amount of knowledge that they have is very important. You cannot even start the project if the artist doesn't know how to research and what to research for
Correct.
the topic.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, we're very grateful to have Zaki
thanks,
on board. I mean,
course.
all these years, I think you
Thanks,
have
man.
become more and more knowledgeable
Yeah,
over
yeah,
the years, all
definitely,
these
man.
projects.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's like because of course the Asiapac give me a lot of source as well, right? A lot of resource for the history lesson thing, and of course you got to find your own research as well because you see because to tell a story, especially for based on a true story, right? It's always depend on different perspective of eyes, right? And the moment, right? So you need to cover all aspect of perspective. If not, you have one perspective, of course people are going to see your bias, something, right?
Yeah.
So you need to see what's the eyes of different perspective for that. So you can create a better understanding of storytelling.
Yeah, so actually the drawing part of things is only one part of the storytelling. Yeah.
Yes. To understand the character, you need to really understand where he came from, right? Who is he, right? What does the aspect of life that he's going for, right? Until the end of life, right? So you need to know the journey. If you don't know the journey of the history of your character, or even from true story, or even for fictional, then you are failed to tell a story.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, not that you fail to tell the story, but you will fail to convince the reader.
Correct.
Because the reader, actually, the belief doesn't come easily lah.
Correct.
You must see a few things on the page and
Yes.
read a few things, and then you will feel the belief.
Correct.
Yeah.
So yes, so anybody who wanted to do comic, please do it. But always remember, you need to know the journey of your character, A to B to C.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's going, where's the story going to end, right? If not, you're going to keep doing, you don't know where it's going to end. And then the story will get like some TV series that you watch got around 12 episodes, 12 seasons, and still people get milk it so much that people get sour to it, right?
Yeah,
This kind of thing.
That's true. Oh, we have some questions coming in on Facebook Live.
Okay,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think we have time to take maybe 2 questions.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so, okay, the first question was, how long do you take to illustrate the comic book from the storyboarding stage to the final production?
Okay, so the whole process for all different projects, right, different timing. For Alata Anan, it's a bit faster. It's within 1 year. For Elizabeth Choy, it's a bit longer.
Yeah, that one was very long.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't help that the pandemic happened
Yeah.
basically towards the final stage. Yeah.
Not because not just that, because sometimes because for me I'm doing some other job, right? So night time sometimes you spend 3 hours to 4 hours to do per page, or sometimes you take 2-3 days to do a page.
Yeah.
Right? So it depends on your timeline. If you're a fast artist, and again, depends on the style of the comic book that you are doing. Okay? If you are doing more stylized kind of comic, then you can do a bit faster. But if you do like semi-realistic that I'm doing right now, like Lieutenant Anand, the look more semi-realistic, it's a bit slower. But if you put the time, 1 page a day will be fine.
Yeah,
Right.
one page a day is what we recommend.
Yeah, 1 page a day will be fine.
But that's a full-time commitment.
Yes, that's a
maybe.
full-time commitment.
Yeah.
It depends on the page. If the page is just one panel, like one look of design of panel, it will be faster. But if you do a 3-4 panel, then of course it will be slower, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
yes, again, the style of drawing, if you look like semi-realistic, because when you do illustrate a history story or based on a true story, you got no choice, but you got to tell a bit more, the design a bit more realistic.
Yeah,
To
that's
make
right.
it feel,
And realistic takes longer,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So I think, I mean, the quick answer would be it took about a year, right?
Yes.
For Lieutenant Anand.
Yeah, for
Then-
100 pages.
Yeah, that was 100 pages of artwork.
Yeah.
So then the second question was, is there any period of history that was your favorite? And if so, why?
Okay, actually the best history is actually the myth history, because when you research it, you got to, the intrigue is like, is this real or is this fake?
So this is 5,000 years ago.
It's
ancient
it's
or-
like a few hundred years ago or 1,000 years ago. Even Badang, I love
Oh,
Badang.
Badang,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
because the history is like always a question. Is it a myth or is it true? Is it story? Is it like there's evidence to it and there's a myth to it also? So I
Yeah.
like a story that that play with mythology and facts. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's the era before photography,
Yeah,
before social media and all that. Actually, things are not really documented lah.
Yeah, it's
during
true.
that
It's even
period
in
so
the
well.
myth you can play like, okay, let's say you see like Wong Feng Hong, right?
Yeah.
Is it a myth or a true story?
I don't know.
It's
Yeah.
a true story that become a myth.
Yeah, that's the most fun, is it?
Yeah,
You
most
like
fun.
it because it's fun.
It's like Jack Sparrow. Is it a myth or a true story?
Yeah,
Is it a myth or a true story?
I think there's a real person that is based on, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What is the answer, Zaki?
Yes,
Do you know?
it's based on Captain, what do you call it? Not Jack Sparrow. The Captain, what do you call it? Bird. Captain Bird, I think, if I'm not wrong.
So an actual captain of a ship.
Yeah, he doesn't call a sparrow because he called himself Captain Bird Eye or something. And I think he don't have a sparrow, he have a
Parrot.
parrot. Yeah.
That's the classic pirate.
Yeah. So eventually it was based on Ottoman Empire. So he actually steal a lot from the Spanish Inquisition at that time.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean that's great lah.
Yeah. So eventually he did get away from the Spanish because he ran away to Ottoman Empire to hide himself.
Oh, and then after that, then the Pirates of the Caribbean happened.
Yeah. Then the story get.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So I think we're very short on time now, but thank you so much, Shariza, for the questions. Hope we managed to reply the questions
Thanks.
well enough. So actually, before we wrap up for today, I mean, Zaki, do you have any last words that you'd like to share the audience today?
Yeah, please, help our local talents, right? No matter who they are, what they are, right? Help local artists and local writers. Try to pick up the books, right? If not online, it's fine, right? Wherever. So it's like it's good to pick up the thing that you like, right? Try give us a chance, right? Then probably you will like it. You will never know, right? If you don't like it, it's fine. You just email to them and answer it, so we can do better.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Yeah.
Okay, that's all. And then thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Zaki. So, I mean, today was a great session. Like, thank you so much for sharing all your expertise and your experience talking about drawing Singapore history in comics. I mean, something that is very important to our learning, something that's very important for young people today to learn more and understand more about local history. So thank you so much for today's session. And thank you to our audience, and thank you to the venue, the Arts House, as well as the Book Bazaar organizers. The Singapore Singlit Book Bazaar will be still continuing for next weekend. So we'll be at the Arts House waiting to see you. Do come down with your friends and family, pick up some books, just like Zaki mentioned, to support your local talents. And yeah, thank you very much for today. Thank you.
Right.
Thanks,
Thank
Zaki.
you, guys. Thank you.
Have a great
Bye-bye.
day. Bye-bye.
Bye.